Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, live from the Ministry League studios in North Georgia, each week with John the Professor Podine and Paul Superman Sperlin, and with producer Caleb Sampson behind the glass on the Ministry League Network. And on all your other favorite platforms, here with all your ministry talk and the latest in news and sports. It's the John and Paul Show live.
Welcome to the John and Paul Show, brought to you by the Ministry League, ministryleague.com or theministryleague.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere that you want to be. There we are. Check us out. Free app. Don't forget about that. So many great things happening. Also brought to you by the Piedmont Road Church of Christ in Marietta, Georgia. The Calhoun Church of Christ right there in Calhoun, Georgia. And, of course, Heritage Christian University in Florence, Alabama. Thank you to Caleb for bringing us together here. And thank you to my partner in crime, John Podine. I hand it to you, my friend.
Oh, good morning, everyone. It is, you know what it feels like, Paul? I'm just not going to lie. We brought back some nice cool weather from across the seas. It feels like fall here in North Georgia. Caleb, I know you've got to be missing it. As we close down September, it is just feels great. Amazing time. Good to be home. Good to be able to see back and see all of the family and everything. And are you rested up, Paul? That's the question.
I'm about there. I'm almost there.
Almost there. Okay.
Yeah. Jet lag is real. I'll say that.
Like sleep on the plane.
Yeah. Well, I won't go into the purposes by which you had that opportunity, but no, I did not sleep.
Oh, but it was good. Yeah. Jet lag is real. I definitely learned that before and was like, yeah, we're going to take all the precautions we possibly can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was tough.
And so, yeah. But we are excited to talk to y'all today. But first, we definitely want to remember all of our friends and family and loved ones that are in Florida that have already gone through the path of Ian. It has really, if you are in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Sanibel Island, Naples area, it is bad. Because, Paul, it just wouldn't move. That thing just baby crawled. And it was just hours upon hours of that storm surge. And I know there's been hundreds of loss of life, according to the Lee County Sheriff this morning. So we definitely need to pray for all of them. Pray for our brethren that are down there. And as it continues to move, it's finally getting ready to pop out of Florida and head up towards South Carolina.
That's true. Yeah. But as bad as it is, it's not as bad as what they first projected that it could be. So we are thankful for that. They were comparing it to making Katrina look like a windstorm. So we're happy that it's been downgraded to tropical storm, which is still bad, but and prayers still go out. Just continue to keep that in mind. Interesting the other day, as we were watching all those trucks make its way south, they're just getting ready, and everything I hear, and you know better than anybody being from there, they're ready. I mean,
they're ready.
Can you ever be ready? But they're doing all they can do to prepare for sure.
They're ready. Yeah, no power, lots of wind, but that's great, Matt, to know that. Yeah, I figured that would be coming with the power, and I saw that Army Corps of Engineers has a bunch of stuff set in Jacksonville ready to go, and thousands of trucks, I think, around the Tallahassee, Lake City area ready to go and hop down 75 as soon as they can get through. Tampa definitely was spared compared to what they thought was going to happen. But definitely that Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, all of that, Fort Myers was just demolished. And then it just crept across the state last night and flooding everything. I woke up this morning watching the news about Daytona, and it was all flooded and everything. So definitely stay safe and pray for the workers. And it's going to be a long cleanup. Definitely going to be a long cleanup.
Homes in Orlando City and a foot deep in water. It's just hard to imagine.
Yeah. So I'm sure you'll be hearing some things on our show here, probably some people going down to help, and then everybody will be here about mission work in place. So definitely pay attention to that. And if you have any questions, we can probably put you in in the directions of the right people that are going to be going down to help.
Yeah,
Project Unify is headed down on Friday.
I'm about to say that. But yeah, spoke with Cody Michaels the other day, and they have vehicles going down Friday and Sunday. Usually they go down after the stuff's over to start working on the cleanup. So please keep that in mind. Shoot us an email. Shoot me an email at paul@ministrylead.com or John or Caleb at ministrylead.com, and we'll get you in the right hands of the right people and being able to do stuff. A lot of congregations, a lot of people putting money towards disaster relief. But please, as Caleb mentioned, we have Project Unify right here as part of Ministry League going and doing stuff. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. And please keep with the prayers and offer the help if we can.
Yeah, definitely going to be some months digging out. So definitely remember that.
For sure. So John, as you mentioned, we wake up this morning and all week enjoying 47 degrees in the morning, which is what we experienced in Scotland. Fortunately, in that location, the high was around 60 each day, so that was kind of nice.
It was.
Here
we were in long sleeve shirts and pullovers.
Hoodies and everything.
We were there.
But what was interesting is you know, here you start in the winter in the morning, and then or at least fall, and then in the afternoon it's summertime again. So it's kind of difficult as to what to wear, what to do. But in Scotland, it was pretty cool all day long. Pretty awesome. And so today we're gonna share some of our experiences with you. With what time we have left in our show today, we want to share a few things, and as we get into the reason by which we went to Scotland. Let me begin by communicating to you the fact that I did not conduct a wedding ceremony in Scotland or Ireland while we were gone. I did not. That people were assume that I did a funeral. I did a wedding in July for a couple of kids that were in my youth group back in the day when I was at University of Montgomery.
Oh, that's why people are attaching that to you.
The picture they put out, and it's okay. I don't have to be in pictures, but they had all these wedding pictures they put out in July. Not a one of them had my face on it, which is fine, no big deal. But they decided to put it out the day I leave for Scotland in the green tie, because Sierra's favorite color is green, so obviously green everywhere, and so everybody's assuming I'm doing a wedding in Ireland. And they're like, how did you have time to do that? I'm like, I didn't do that. They just put the pictures out 2 months late. Yes, Shamrock. Yeah.
Oh man, yes.
As much as I appreciate you thinking I was more busy than I wasn't actually. So.
Yeah, nobody got married over there. We did go see a few chapels while we were there. Did lead singing in one.
You did.
That William Wallace was in back in 1297, I think is what the date was. So yeah,
they probably weren't singing the same song, but you know,
I don't think they were. Yeah, I don't think Firm Foundation was written yet back in those days. I'm not sure Amazing Grace wasn't written back then. So
you know,
so no, it wouldn't have been written back then yet. I don't think so.
It was later.
It was definitely later. But hey, Paul, we did get to go over there. It was an exciting trip. Starting from over here and making that way over. Probably the biggest question I've been asked is how long did it take to get there? And I'm like, well, it's not a direct flight. We had to go to Amsterdam first and fly for about 8.5 hours.
I'd say it's a 10 hours in the air to get to where we were. Right. I mean, because
layover,
like we leave from there about an hour and a half. They said hour and a half. It seemed more like 50 minutes, but either way, 10 hours would get it.
Yeah, let's put it this way. It was definitely about as long as the Starbucks line in the Amsterdam airport. That Lane and I both learned twice.
For sure.
Trying to do that. So, yeah, but it was great to get over there and to be a part of the people. Even if, Paul, we had a little trouble getting through immigration. I mean,
we did. And I guess, John, it's our fault. because you like taking pictures and I have a child.
I like taking pictures. And apparently Laney doesn't look like you.
I mean, I don't think they cared if she did or not.
Did you hear a church called a Kirk in Scotland?
We did go to Kirkcaldy.
Yeah, we were in Kirkcaldy.
But that's as close to Kirk as I can tell you.
Yeah. That's outside of Edinburgh when we were there. But yeah, I decided to take a picture because there was a sign that said, "Welcome to the UK border." And I was like, oh, cool, let me document this. And you'd have thought I was stealing state secrets.
But he was still in customs. So that was the issue there.
I took a picture of it.
What did the guy tell you? What did he tell you?
Dude, he flipped out on me. I thought, I was just like, he's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. He's like waving his hands all over the place. I'm like, me? And then he was like, you got to delete that. You got to delete that. Then, and he was saying some other stuff, and I really couldn't understand what he was saying.
You got to delete that.
And he was just like, so that's Paul's. We'll get to Paul's here in a second.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
But then we get through, and Dale's talking to a guy that's a local guy, and he's like, yeah, he's lucky he didn't get detained and arrested, because normally that would send you to questioning and our version basically of Guantanamo Bay. And I was just like, what? I said, I'm not a terrorist here. I'm just taking a picture.
He literally said Guantanamo Bay.
He did. He said Guantanamo Bay. He compared it. He said, yeah, if you do that in America, you go to Guantanamo Bay. I'm like, no.
Like, you're out. Sorry, dude.
No, I got in, but then Paul got shady-fied.
Here's the thing. Laney was on this trip with us. Me and Stephanie, we've traveled abroad before, no big deal. But see, Laney and I have global entry. And Miss Gail is the only one that actually had it, and everybody else now is thinking we're going to do that now. So we walk straight through. Well, I make sure me and Laney on the same line. She goes in, the guy, he says, "Come on over," and this, and then actually I went through first, and no big deal. I turn around, I wait, turn around, I'm waiting for her, and she walks up, and then they ask me and says, "Who is this?" I said, "This is my daughter." "Sorry, you have to wait around the corner." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? This is my daughter. I'm not leaving my daughter's side." He says, "We'll find out if she's your daughter or not." I'm like, "Say what again?" I'm like, "Look at her. I mean, you can't deny this. I'm sorry. She's got at least my eyes. Help me out." And he said, "You need to get out of sight right now." And I'm like, "This is crazy." And then they said, "Around the corner, sir." So I go around the corner, and I'm standing there thinking, wait, I guess they had to do this because, and then later we found out drug trafficking obviously unfortunately is a big deal over there. And so, well, everywhere probably, but they had to separate us and ask her the questions. And they asked her, "Was that your father?" And she said yes. He says, "Are you sure?" It's like, sure? Blink once on your right eye if it's not. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's crazy. So their security is serious, especially traveling with children over there. And so I appreciate that they were so secure about that, but at the same time, starting to blow up a little bit. Worried about whether I'll be able to take my daughter with me into the country. So, but it worked out. We made it.
And here we thought the whole time Stephanie was going to be the one that caused the international incidents, and we were the ones that did that.
That's a good point. I mean, nobody would have thought that John and Paul going abroad would be the issue.
I know. But
we started off with a bang, that's for sure.
We did. And you know what, Paul, when we got in there and got into the country, I mean, it really is a beautiful country and everything got to see. Of course, when we arrive, it's still the Queen. They're doing the funeral on that Monday. And but I had a wonderful time pushing the van in the middle of Glasgow when it broke down.
I don't know if that video ever hit Facebook. I sent it to Hardison. I'm not really sure if it ever got loaded up, but I think it did. I think, yeah, it did. We did hit that, but John was so quick to want to talk about the broke down van. I'm like, dude, no, talk about the trip. Let's cover the lead, please.
Whatever, man. I was in there. I was doing the American thing. I was like, oh, here, let me take a selfie here, right in the middle of.
I know. It's not look like tourists. Come on. But
because everything was closed down, Paul. I think that's one thing that we knew it was going to happen, but I still think it surprised us. Being Americans, if we have somebody who has passed, we do honor them. We do everything, but the world doesn't shut down in our country. Literally everything shut down. Nothing was opened that day. It took us forever to try to find a place to go eat that day.
Yeah. They obviously the love for the Queen in the UK, in that area. I mean, it's incredible, and she's deeply missed. Even the recap was about 7 or 8 hours on the news that night. After a 20-hour, basically it's a full day, 24-hour ceremony. So but it was pomp and circumstance. If y'all, I'm sure everyone had a chance to catch that, because I'm sure they showed all the world. But they had pictures in every business, as John said, telling them why we're not here, and with initials, ER, and you can explain that if you want, and all the big poster boards with her face on it, and just close to the day and see you tomorrow, that kind of thing, observance. So and even talking with people. I even talked to the guy we had breakfast one morning. Man, this is an incredible coffee shop. It was called Bean for Coffee.
Bean for
was
Coffee,
the name of the place, and it was so neat. It's like a Mission Impossible scene, and this place, in
this little village.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Volater, Scotland.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But I asked him. I said, "So, what's it gonna be like now?" Saying King Charles. And he stopped. He was doing the register thing. He looked up. He said, "It's gonna be weird." Like, oh no!
Well, because that's a little village that the Queen used to go into all the time, where we were at.
Oh, yeah, Baltalk. Yeah, we were right there where she's from, where her castle was.
Yeah.
So we went to the gate. Anyway.
So it was cool. We don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it, but the country is beautiful. The travel is beautiful. The food, even haggis, is good. We enjoyed haggis. I enjoyed haggis. I don't know.
Okay.
Did Lainey try black pudding?
Yes, we both did.
Y'all did?
That's right. Yeah. Well, just so he said we did. It's like stuffing, but it's very dense. It's very It's
made from blood, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
That's why you're having jet lag right there.
Oh yeah, I was sick, man. I was sick. I was like, why did I do this?
That is why. Oh, that is why your stomach was upset on that trip. Yeah.
No, my stomach's done a few different things. We won't go there.
But it is good. From the first day when we went and we found a possible location for the event. We'll talk about that on the coast, all the way up to the Highlands, up in that Aberdeen, the northeastern area of Scotland. It is really beautiful and a peaceful country. I will say this, Paul. People don't rush over there like Americans do.
No, they don't. It's a very chill out kind of atmosphere. I mean, I feel like I was in Jamaica. No offense.
Oh man, it was like
it's like, it's so laid back, and so nobody's in a hurry for nothing, and it was kind of refreshing. But I'm not used to it. We're constantly in motion, things happening, and you got to get on it or you'll forget about it. And it's just but they're just live life. You'll be okay. It'll be good.
Yeah, it was. What really struck me is things really didn't open till 10 a.m., but then they closed by 7 p.m. And so if you need something, you better get going. Like there were times we struggle finding food at night because we're like, it's whatever we eat whenever we get going and things like this. And there was nothing open.
Yeah. Everything. It took a while to find it.
But it was great, Paul, and getting to see all of that. But that wasn't the big reason why we went. We weren't going for a sightseeing visit, though.
We really weren't. And some folks asked me, it looked like you went all over the nation. I mean, y'all really did some really sightseeing. Actually, we went to see people, and it was on the way because even though it's a very chilled out atmosphere there, we were always in a hurry. I mean, we didn't really stop for very long to do much. We had to get to the next place. Every day we met with at least one congregation. In some cases, multiple congregations together in a meeting. Every day that we were there, and so we made it work for us. We took advantage.
Even one day we split up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tuesday night. Was it Tuesday night? No, Wednesday night. John and Dale went to Northern Ireland, and we went to Kirkcaldy. Don't use
Yes.
the L. Kirkcaldy.
Don't use the L. That's
Scotland.
correct.
So we divide and conquered, spoke in different places, and shared about this great program we know and love.
Yeah, and when we got to be with the people, Paul, that's really why, like I said, that was our thrust. But you're right. The only downtime we really had is when we were driving in the van from place to place, except at night when everything was shut down. What we're talking about this country, you're talking about a country the size of, say, the state of Georgia from top to bottom. And is kind of how it was explained. In a country of 5.5 million people.
Yep.
We have cities in this country that are bigger than that, that are made up on that. And so it's just interesting, especially when you dig into the history and that they're not a young country like us. They're definitely not a young country. But out of that 5.5 million, what was the thing that shocked you the most?
I guess the fact that we found out that, only 2% of everyone in the nation attends church somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about body of Christ, folks. We're talking about, you got Catholic and Protestant is really the mainstays in the nation, but even that connected with the 700 people we would consider Christians, go to church. 2%. That tells me that there's a lot of work to do, and that they're doing work, and there's a lot more that we can do and help be a part of. Back, what they say, before COVID, 100 years ago, leading up to COVID, there was about 16 congregations in the nation of Scotland, and today there's 12.
About 100. Or maybe was it 100, or are you talking about 100 years?
100 years up to COVID. Before COVID, from 1900 to then, there was a mainstay of about 16 different congregations. But now, presently, there's only 12.
12, yeah.
And we had a chance to make contact with eight of those. And so we were really excited to be able to do that and be a part of that. It's funny because where John sits on the screen just under him is actually where they went near Belfast there.
That is, yeah, that's where I was at.
That's really good placement there, Caleb.
Good placement, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And it is, Paul, that is what's interesting in the church life there of having basically 12 congregations. We have 12 congregations within 30 miles of where we're at, right here in the north, just in the Northwest Georgia area. And you're talking about a country the size of the state of Georgia having 12 complete. And so with that, having 700 members that make up those congregations, it was interesting, especially if you're a church history buff, where Paul got to go on Wednesday night in Kirkcaldy is where Alexander Campbell preached in that area at that church, going back to Restoration times.
His pulpit used to be there. They restored it and sent it back to Pepperdine.
Yeah, that's right. They sent it to Pepperdine.
But now it sits at Pepperdine. If you want to go to California and see, which I do. But it sat there in Kirkcaldy for years and years, up until pretty recently, I think. Yeah. And a lot of history there. A lot of connection with them in the Aberdeen church. Aberdeen, a lot of good things between those two congregations. And so really neat. Of course, for me, and John will probably appreciate this as much as I would, if not more, the Aberdeen folks were near there, and we saw them in Aberdeen as well. But that they came over and they remembered Donnie Hilliard. They remembered Joey Wigginton and then the Cornerstone groups that came over in the early 2000s. And that was a cool connection, obviously having a chance to teach at Faulkner and knowing those guys. And one of them kept saying, Ian Starrs, a great guy, a preacher who used to preach at Aberdeen. Now he basically circuit preaches all of the nation. He said it was this little kid, a blonde-headed kid, some Cornerstone. What's his name? I'm like, well, I'm trying to think of blonde-headed guys in Cornerstone. I'm like, I can't think of one. And then he said, is it Chad? I said, Chad Brown? And he's like, yeah, Chad Brown's my youth group. What are you talking about? I'm Chad Brown. Chad Brown. So I took a picture with Ian, sent it to those guys. It was just neat. It was just cool to to find those connections, even halfway across the world, not halfway, but close enough. It was just neat. It was just the way the people treated us. They knew nothing about what Exposure Youth Camp was, but to sit down with them and to share the story of what's so important to us and what's affected our young people and us as we do the event. I think I get as much out of putting it on as I ever did as seeing these kids be a part of it. But then with Lainey being there was key, more than I thought could be, because she was pouring out her heart about how important team time was to her and how that works. It was just really cool. And I say that, we're going to get that in a little bit, but I say that because the people were just soaking it in and listening to everything we said. And they're like, what can you do? What can we do to strengthen the church? And that's all they cared about. And it was really neat.
And what's interesting is listening to the people and listening to their stories and looking to what their church life is like. There's a lot of first and second generation Christians that are part of these churches. You're not having people that have grown up in church all their life and or families that have been generations part of the church. These are a lot of first and second generation Christians, Paul. And even the Tuesday night when we were there and we met with the youth group at the youth there in Cumbernauld for their youth night things that they did. There's 2 that showed up that were members of that church. As far as they grew, their parents are there and they go there. And the rest of the kids that were there, and I think there was like 15 kids there, including Lainey. So the rest of those kids were all from the community. The parents didn't.
Yeah, Caleb has a picture of that if he wants to go ahead.
No, not that one. That's a good one. We'll come to it in. That one right there. Yeah. We're in there, and that group that you see around, I think there's 5 of us as adults in there. Yeah. And the kids, these weren't members there. These are people that came out of the community and through their schools and things like this and what was interesting, and I got a video of it, of everybody singing, and they're singing songs that we sing like at Exposure in our churches and things like this. And these are kids who are not members that are just singing "Who's That Walking Down Heaven's Road?" Yeah, just with smiles and everything else. And it was I don't know, that really just kind of blew me away, Paul.
Yeah, it was awesome. And as you look here, they have pictures of retreats they've had, and they frame the T-shirts and put them on the walls like some of our youth groups do here. It's just neat. It's just neat to see kids coming together. But John's right. 2 kids attend that church.
Yeah, out of that group.
That group. And then on Tuesdays, they call it Youth Club. So they'll come together for about an hour Bible study, and then they'll have like an hour or so where they just hang out and play games and just be together. And it was just a really neat, uplifting opportunity, especially after Sunday. The church is there Sunday. We got there in time for church Sunday night, and then to see all this. This is a working church, Cumbernauld Church, there in Glasgow or near Glasgow. That's a working congregation. They've always got something going on. It's pretty neat for that.
And I think, Paul, what people need to know, I think we went to 2 places. We went to actual 2 church buildings. Everything else is in community centers. And things like this. This is a community center that's there that they ran out to be a part of in there. And it was just neat to be around and to see all of this and to interact with them and to hear their stories and the sharing their experiences with things. It was, that really helped get our week really pumping.
It did. It was pretty awesome. And like we said before, we met with people during the week. Yeah, hit that one if you don't mind. Well, you just missed it. Yeah, that one. This was actually in Kirkcaldy, where we met folks there, and I was able to share the story of Exposure Youth Camp and the importance of Bible study and the time we spend in that, but also the other aspects of our event. And as I look at this, of course, Dale and John were in near Belfast in Northern Ireland, speaking to the congregation there. So we were able to divide and conquer. We really made the most of the time we had there. But so that was John and Dale. Pictured here, right directly to my right, as I'm standing in this picture, is Graham McDonald, one of the preachers at the Cumbernauld Church. big kudos to him for taking us all across the nation, literally.
Yeah. Graham was the MVP.
Yeah, Graham did that for us. To his right, there is Jay Hall. Jay is the youth minister at the Beaufort Church of Christ. Beaufort had interest in the church at Perth, what they're trying to do at Perth, Scotland, and so they sent him on that. Excited about his part in that. Jay also helps run our college program for exposure. Whipping on around the back of her head, you see right there is Miss Gail. She's there with us and on our board for Ministry League and does so many things travel wise and other things for us, and just really appreciate her. I want to make sure and do the shout outs. Laney's right there. I think that's Laney right there next to her. There. Stephanie is probably the one taking a picture. I don't see her here, but played a big part in what we did there. So a lot of folks that took part and went with us, the 7-8 folks that really made it memorable and really got us started. We had 1 week to get things done and to try to solidify the possibility of can there be an EYC Scotland, and I think that kind of gets us to that last part we're talking about today.
Yeah, it did. One of the beautiful things that we dealt with a little bit, I guess, with it is, of course, as Paul said, people didn't know what exposure was. It was just a youth event. But also, Paul, we dealt with that we struggled, that we had to be cautious about, was that we were Americans coming over. And the church in Scotland, to be perfectly honest with you, yeah, wow, look at there. Got Grandpa and Indiana Jones going.
Dude, I love those hats.
There is a history back in with the American church coming over in the early 1900s that makes Scottish people a little hesitant toward American missionaries and Christian works coming over to help. And so that's one thing where we were trying to be cautious of that and respectful of their traditions and their people. And what we found is open arms of ready to jump right in to do this.
Oh yeah. The only thing we felt like we were bringing to them was the concept of the program that would help. Let me stop for a second here. This is St. Andrews University. It's the oldest university on the continent, definitely the nation of Scotland. It gave me an Indiana Jones feel, but by far the most gorgeous, picturesque place we probably were. It was just, man, it was incredible.
Paul was hoping to go play golf.
So if you go back this other way, you can't, obviously the picture's not there. St. Andrews golf course is there, which is the birthplace of golf. And it was pretty, it was awesome. It was really, really nice.
Yep. You didn't send him a picture of Dunutter Castle, did you?
I did not.
Oh, darn.
The crowning one right there behind us is where they crown the king, or will crown the king.
Scone Palace.
That's right.
Yeah, I need to let everybody know that I am applying for a position at Dunutter Castle. They're looking for a custodian type of, caretaker type of person for it. And
he was trying to use this way
to go out there. But no, we did get to work and to get this event and program going off, Paul. And I do think we have nailed down at least a time frame of when we are going to do it. We don't have a location as of yet. There are a couple of possibilities. We're reaching out, trying to determine cost, determine things like that. This is on the village of Args, if I'm right, what I'm looking at here. And to the right, there is an island. Yeah, on Great Cumbria Island. Yeah. It's Millport, and that's a possibility of a location for the program.
So as you see that shoreline right in front of that shoreline, the picture's cutting away, but this shoreline right here is where the ferry comes in, and it goes across. If I'm looking at this right, and then it takes us across to so we will have to ride a ferry if the event is there. They have cars that go on it, obviously. Thank you. Cars that go on it, and
He
people.
called me grandpa, so I don't know about that one.
Yeah. Luckily, she didn't put that there. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. That's our hope. They feel like this will be the biggest straw for everybody for this. The other option is a facility actually in Glasgow, not too far from Cumbernauld. So we'll see. But John, did you want to tell them what the possible date is looking like?
Yeah, we are looking at, as far as the event, September 1 through the 3rd, so that Labor Day weekend for us in our country. And one of our greatest challenges, we did plan on looking at July originally to do it, but they basically have a month off school when they get out, and they get out at the very end of June in school. And then the first week in July, Scotland has a Bible camp in a part of the country. And the last week of July, they have another Bible camp in another part of the country. Then the first week of August, the British Bible camp takes place down there close to London. And we're trying to hopefully get some of the northern part of Britain to come to be a part of this event. And so it basically pushed to the weekend of the first weekend in September.
Mm-hmm. So just one of those things, and that's when it goes. And we weren't going to replace anything they've already done. We just wanted to add something there to them to help with what's going on. So as John mentioned before, we went there with pushing a teenage/college young adult event, which is kind of how we have it here in the States. But they said, well, what about our younger children? And what about our older people? What about, and with Dale being there, being able to share the opportunity to have a better conference for preachers, and also a classes for development of elderships and deacons and leadership opportunities and parents and things like that. It seems like what it's going to develop into is really a church-wide spiritual enrichment opportunity. And so it kind of changes. And that's how we are. And our dream, Exposure Youth Camp and Ministry League into Global, our dream is to place these as far reaching all across the world as we can. We're told to do that, and that's what we want to do. We do our part here in the States, obviously, day to day, but we'd like to be able to give other people opportunities to understand kind of how this works and what would help them and benefit them. And so it will be different in different places, and we want to make it work for where you are. And that's the whole thing.
I think you just nailed it. There's not a one size fits all, Paul. Exposure Youth Camp is the vehicle. And that is always big for us, because in every country we have run into so far, the youth, how do I say this? For the most part, are left behind. Most churches they're wondering where is the youth? What can they do to get the youth back? And it breaks our heart. When Paul mentioned that Dale and I were outside of Belfast, we were in a little community called Bangor, which is a little suburb of Belfast. That's where we were at church. There's basically 20 people there. There was no kids except for a family that was there from the Ukraine who had escaped the war and the bombing. And there were 2 little girls that were there with their mom that had escaped. And so Exposure Youth Camp is our vehicle, but as Paul said, this can evolve, and this is flexible. There's not a one size fits all, and this is going to turn into almost a family rally within spiritual. I like that, spiritual enrichment weekend for the whole country to come and be a part of. And so we're excited about that, and excited to be a part of that and to help connect people who may live up in the north end of Scotland, to connect people who live in the south end of Scotland, and to realize they're not alone in this battle, and they're not alone in this fight, and they have friends and family that they can connect with all over.
And what's really neat is, can you imagine if we took the United States and told every congregation coming together for one thing?
Yeah,
we're going to be able to do that in Scotland. And when you start with that foundational thing, it's able to create a unity in the country that like none other. And so for them to all come together in one place, and they were encouraged about the Sunday morning worship and being there, and man, it's exciting. It's super exciting. Now let me stop this for a minute and just mention this, because I've gotten 4 or 5 calls already. Everybody wants to go. Okay, everybody wants to go to Scotland for this event. make sure that if you're wanting to go, it's to go to help what's happening here, not just to go to see the castles and the water. Because honestly, if it wasn't for our travel needs, we wouldn't have seen any of that stuff.
Correct.
Because we didn't go to see that stuff. We drove by it. So obviously we stopped to take a picture. But the space is limited. The space is limited on this, and
especially depending on where we host it, Paul. Because if we host it on that island of Millport,
sure,
it's not going to have enough. It's not going to have a lot of space for people to go and do.
Right. Space is definitely limited, and so we need to make sure that the folks in Scotland have a chance to be there first before we bring folks from the United States. So something to consider.
Yeah, and it's going to be, and we don't necessarily want to turn anybody away, but we just want to be upfront with everybody. And as I said, I know there were a lot of people that Paul and I have talked to. There he goes with his shorts on in the office. Oh, how about that? That were wanting to bring youth groups and wanting to do some things, and that was part of the reason we were hoping to be able to do it in July, but because of their schedule, it just doesn't, and it pushes it into. And I know that's going to affect like possible youth groups and people going, and. But we're, as Paul said, we are trying to reach their needs and the things that will help them. And that was the best time to be able to do that and to reach that. And so we will be having some more information coming out once we nail down for sure exactly where the event is going to take place, and then a cost of things, and try to look at some flights and trying to go ahead and get them early. Within reason, to be able to make the trip as affordable as possible. So if you are coming, as Paul said, please make sure that you're coming for, and that it's for the right reasons for this event. There will be time to be able to go and do some sightseeing on your own, but we're also looking at possibly setting up, doing another one in London during the same time while we are there. That's further for the further people in the south of Britain. So there's some things up in the air about that possibly too. So we're trying to make the most of it and make the most of our travel and trip, and just be able to spread God's word, because there are a lot of people that need it, especially young people. One of the things that I saw in Belfast is really broke my heart is the amount of young people that look hopeless running around Belfast at 10:30 at night, because there's not a lot of parental guidance, and there's really not a lot to, I hate to say it in this way, that just pushes them forward. Part of that is their education system, and that's another subject for another time of how they do things. And so that's why we want to do these things, is to be able to go out and use exposure as the vehicle to push it. And but we will have more information coming out soon that will explain what and everything is going to be and a cost. And then if you are interested in going, we will set something up for you to talk to us, and so we can have that conversation with you.
Good deal. Yeah. Well, any final thoughts? Caleb, any interjections, any questions, or anything we need to do before we get out here?
I was talking about the Braves Met series.
I don't want to talk about it.
Paul,
we can't.
All I got to do, if they win 4 games, Paul, in a row, the Braves will win the East. 4 games.
Yeah. 4 games. Not going to happen. If you can't beat the worst team in baseball, then I don't think you have a shot. So there's that. Yes, the Mets come to town tonight, I guess, tonight in the morning, whenever it is. They start the series tomorrow night. Which is looking forward to tomorrow, I guess. I'm not looking forward to it for the reasons, but tomorrow night the Braves and the Mets start their series, and I would say whoever wins that series will win the division. I guess it's safe to say. We'll put it that way.
We're going for a sweep, Paul. Sweep.
I hope so. That would be nice.
I will put a broom up on our next week's show if they will sweep.
I am surprised they didn't set up their rotation for DeGrom to start the series. I'm really surprised.
They changed it. DeGrom is starting the series.
As of when?
I saw it announced on Twitter. It was either last night or this morning. Okay, DeGrom is starting tomorrow night for the Mets. Yeah,
last night it's
DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bastilla or something like that.
That's it. Yeah, they flipped it
it.
then because he was supposed to start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's what that should do, I guess.
Versus Max Fried.
Yeah, we'll see.
Come on, Braves, let's do this.
I'll
even do the tomahawk chop for Matt.
Any college football you want to speak of as far as what's going on tomorrow?
Is there college football
or Saturday?
There's really college football playing right now.
Yeah, I know Alabama travels to Fayetteville, Arkansas.
That'll be an interesting game. That'll be an interesting game. Florida game got postponed till Sunday.
Against
Eastern Washington.
Okay.
We finally have a cupcake game. You know, we played 4 real games in a row, so we figured we wanted to play a cupcake game.
Y'all have played some games. That's
Here we go. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So let me ask you this, Paul. Countdown clock. How long before Harston gets fired at Auburn?
It's already done.
You think so?
Yep.
Who's going to be the coach?
What?
Who's going to be the coach?
Oh, it's not going to be Deion.
Everybody's wanted Deion Sanders.
I know they want him
to be the coach at Auburn.
Honestly, I'd love it to be Deion.
That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious with him and Nick Saban doing Aflac commercials then.
AJ McCarron went on Twitter yesterday and saying that he heard from a source that he's already fired. His source could be his wife. I don't know. We'll see. But
does his wife have a connection to Auburn?
She kind of went to school there.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah. Which is weird.
Keep
but
up with players. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Paul.
Well, John, that means it is time to end the show. We thank y'all so very much for being here, being a part of what we had to share. Please continue to pray, continue to reach out and talk to us. And also, above all else, remember October 15th is registration day for Exposure Youth Camp USA. So get ready for that. Really neat information about that registration. That's going to make it a lot easier on folks on getting there, getting connected to it. But you'll have to tune in next week to find out about that. We'll give you instructions on how that works and more ministry opportunities. Thank you to Caleb Sampson and the good work he does for us, but also being sponsored in part by Heritage Christian University, the Calhoun Church, and also the Piedmont Road Church of Christ right here in Marietta. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to go to the website, ministryleague.com, everywhere on social media at Ministry League. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and God bless.